Hello students, I am VLN Swarupini, lecturer in biochemistry from Sri Venkateswara College of Arts and Sciences, which is affiliated to Adikavi Nannaya University, Rajahmundry. Now, I would like to discuss about third BSc biochemistry elective paper, that is basic microbiology. And from this paper, we have already seen about bacteria, viruses. Now let's see about viroids. Basically, these viroids are circular, single-stranded, non-encapsulated pathogenic RNA molecules. So here, these viroids, they have only genetic material. Okay, so they doesn't contain any capsid or any other additional structures, just a viral genetic material, pathogenic DNA molecule. This is a circular, single-stranded, pathogenic DNA molecule. So these pathogenic DNA molecules which show pathogenicity are called as viroids. And the first viroid was given by scientist Diner in the year 1971. So in the year 1971, Diner for the first time identified these viroids. And these are unique class of self-replicating entities. So these are unique class of self-replicating entities. So if you see the difference between virus and viroid, viruses and viroids both have genetic material, but protein capsid is absent in viroids, present in viruses. And whatever the genetic material is present in virus doesn't undergo self-replication. It needs the help of the host cell. But here this genetic material, pathogenic genetic material, which we are calling it as viroids, this can undergo self-replication. So this is the major difference between viruses and viroids. And in viroids, the genetic material is in naked form, and whereas these viruses are circulated with a protein coat, but they can't undergo any self-replication. So that is the major difference between this viroids and viruses. So almost same points will be there. So therefore lack of capsid but show characteristics of viruses. So the major point about this viroids is they lack capsid but show characteristics of viruses. And the RNA macromolecules is single stranded but covalently closed to form a rod shaped and consequently not easily digested by host ribonucleases which prefer single-stranded RNA. So here whatever the genetic material RNA is present, it is a single-stranded RNA, but it is arranged in a rod shape. It is covalently closed to form a rod shape, and it is not easily digested by the host ribonucleases, which is basically preferred for the digestion of single stranded RNA. This ribonuclease will digest single stranded RNA, but whatever the single stranded RNA which is acting as viroid is not easily digested by the host ribonuclease enzyme. So first I'll make you to get idea about this viroid. So this is a viroid. So it is a single stranded mRNA which is arranged in a rod shape. Okay. So if you see the diagram, you can understand how a viroid structure will be there. So and this viroid that doesn't contain any capsid and surrounded by a single stranded RNA in a rod shape, and host ribonucleases cannot digest this particular single stranded RNA. Okay, and the first viroid to be discovered and purified was the causative agent of potato spindle tuber disease. So, whatever the viroid first discovered by Diner in the 1971 is the viroid which is causing potato spindle tuber disease in potatoes. So, in potato plant, this disease called potato spindle tuber disease is caused by this particular viroid, and this was identified by Diner along with his team member Reimer in the year 1967, and he explained about this viroid in the year 1971. He named this particular compound as viroid in the year 1971, but for the first time he identified in the year 1967. So he named that causative agent as potato spindle tuber viroid. So as this viroid is causing potato spindle tuber disease in potatoes, he named it as potato spindle tuber viroid. Simply we can also mention it as PSTVD. PSTVD. If you see about the structure of this PSTVD, this molecule consists of 359 nucleotides. Okay, and it can code for a protein of 70 to 80 amino acids. So this particular PSTVD molecule, it has 359 nucleotides, and these 359 nucleotides, they code for a protein. That means if these nucleotides are expressed at genetical level, they form a protein, and this protein contains approximately 70 to 80 amino acids in its structure. And these viroids infects different kinds of commercial important crops like citrus, cucumber, chrysanthemum, potato, etc. And this PSTVD is transmitted through mechanical means. That means whenever there is a mechanical damage, that means if that plant had any mechanical damage, or by that mechanical damage if it have any wound, then what happens? This particular viroids can have a way for the infection into that plant, and these can also be transmitted through pollen grains. So these are the pollen grains which are responsible for the fertilization, can also carry these viroids into the plants. Okay, these are the methods how this particular PSTVD can be infected, and about 200 to 10,000 copies of PSTVD are found in each cell. So whatever the potato plant is infected with this PSTVD, if you take the cells of that particular potato plant, each cell will contain around 200 to 10,000 copies of single PSTVD, and genes lack initiation codon, that is AUG. We all know initiation codon is the AUG, and after the discovery of PSTVD, many plant diseases are also known to be caused by viroids. So this is the PSTVD structure. So this is the PSTVD structure. So here what we can understand by seeing about this viroids, even though it is lacking the viral structure, it's a just single piece of single stranded RNA, but this is also capable of causing a disease with its pathogenicity or with its virulence. Okay, so this is about viroids. Now let's see about prions. So this is another topic, prions. Basically these viroids and prions are important for shorts. That means mostly asked for short questions. Now let's see about this prions. So these prions are also infectious agents. These are also infectious agents, but they differ from viruses and viroids. Okay, so if you see about viroids, these are mostly seen in plants. That means these mostly infect plants and cause diseases in plants. Coming to these prions, these are mostly localized in the animal cells and also in the human cells. So these prions cause disease in animals and humans. And here these are nothing but the proteinaceous infectious particles. So if you see viroids, these are just genetic material which is in pathogenic way. So here proteinaceous, that means protein molecules, these are basically, but these are showing infections, these are causing infections. So if what are proteins? Here, if we ask what are proteins, these are nothing but proteinaceous infectious particles. These were first identified by Carlton Zazdusky in the year 1957. In the year 1957. So, when he identified this prions means, he came to know about a rare and new disease called Kuru, and this Kuru is nothing but who is infected with this Kuru disease. That means who have this Kuru disease, we can observe shaking or shivering of local inhabitants in the few tribal areas. So they rapidly their body will be shaking and shivering. Okay, so he observed those inhabitants in some tribal areas and he worked on them and he identified this is called Kuru, which is caused by proteinaceous pathogenic proteinaceous infectious agents. Okay, so here many humans and children's they have this involuntary problems. Involuntary means movement of the muscles. Okay, involuntary tremors at the early stage of the disease. So initially humans and children they developed this involuntary tremors at the early stage, and after the patients they pass through stages of increased dementias leading to the death. So finally patient will be dead. So this disease spread due to kind of rituals of cannibalism. That means few tribals, few kind of tribals, they have few rituals or ceremonies at the time of the death. Okay, so the person who was dead, that person's brain is eaten up by the family members. So it is a cannibalism ritual, and because of this particular ritual this disease Kuru disease was spread. That means whatever the proteinaceous infectious agents present in the dead body's brain, that particular proteinaceous particles were being spread to the family members who are following this ritual. Okay, the patients who were infected with this Kuru disease, they don't show any symptoms of infection of central nervous system, but involuntary tremors were commonly seen. That means shaking and shivering of their bodies, and which leads to death. Okay, and also William Hadlow, who is a veterinary pathologist, worked on a scarpy in neurological disorders of goats and sheep. So this is a specimen prepared by Zazdusky, So he prepared a specimen called Scarpy, and he verified this Zazowski's specimen while he is working for the neurological disorders of goats and sheep, and he observed that there is a similarity between these Scarpy and specimens which were prepared by this Zazdowski. So he what similarities he identified is the Scarpy which is seen in the goats is similar to the brain disease caused, that means whatever this Kuru victims caused from the abnormalities found in the brains, and he found some similarities. And here Zarzewski proved the infectious nature of Kuru by injecting the brain suspensions of Kuru victims to chimpanzee. So he proved that this Kuru is caused by the proteinaceous infectious agent which is present in the brains, and he have taken those suspensions and he injected to a chimpanzee and observed clinical symptoms in that particular chimpanzee, and this development of these symptoms were after 8 to 21 months. After 8 to 21 months period, these symptoms were observed in the chimpanzee. And later in the year 1970, Stanley B. Prusiner is another scientist. He worked along with his co-workers, and he worked on infectious agent responsible for Scarpy disease in goats and this particular sheep. Okay, so after furious and exhausted research of 10 years, he concluded that causative agent of Scarpy is smaller than any known virus, and most unexpectedly it is composed of a protein having a molecular weight of 27,000 to 30,000 daltons, and no nucleic acid form is infectious agent. That means no nucleic acid is acting as infectious agent, and it could be isolated. He named those highly unusual pathogens as prions. So here the name prions was given by the scientist Prusiner. Okay, here the scientist Prusiner gave the name prions. Okay, so these are the proteinaceous infectious particles. Besides these Scarpy, prions are now known to be casual agents for neurological disorders such as bovine spongiform encephalopathy. So it is also called as mad cow disease. This is caused in cattle, and this was observed by Kletzfeld, Jacob. Another disease also there, that is CZD disease, that is Creutzfeldt Jakob disease. Okay, and Gretzmann, Stassler, Scheiser ZSS disease, and Kuru. These are the few diseases caused by these prions, and for his work in prions, this Prusiner was awarded Nobel Prize in the year 1997. Okay, so this is about prions and viroids. Now let's see about protozoans. So now let's see about protozoa. So let's see about this protozoa. So let's see about this protozoa. Basically, we have seen about Whittaker 5 kingdom classification, in which Protista is one of the important kingdom. So these Protistans are heterogeneous group of living things and these group contain organisms which are uh, one celled, that means only one cell is present. And some protistans, so some protestant species, they contain chlorophyll, and they are like plant like protistans which are plant like in nature, and they have chlorophyll and some other pigments, and they undergo photosynthesis. And these also have cellulose wall, and these are called as protophyta. And few protistans, these are animal like and have no chlorophyll and no cellulose wall, and these feed on organic matters, and these are called as protozoa. So if we take protista, so this contains two kinds of organisms, plant like and animal like. Okay, and plant like organisms, they contain chlorophyll and some pigments and cellulose wall in it, and these are called as protophyta. Okay, and animal like organisms, they lack chlorophyll and cellulose wall, and these feed on organic matters, and these are called as protozoa. Okay, hope you got clarity. So protista has two kinds of organisms, few resemble plant and few resemble animal. Plant resembling organisms are called as protophyta, and animal resembling organisms are called as protozoa. Okay, so hope you got clarity what are protozoa. So these protozoas are unicellular protistans which have animal like behavior. Okay, so what are these? These protista are unicellular protistans which have animal like behavior such as movement, and these are single cell heterotrophic eukaryotes. These are single cell heterotrophic eukaryotes. So these are protozoa, and these particular protozoa, they contain non-filamentous structures. Okay, non-filamentous structures are present in these protozoa, and these are considered under subkingdom of protista. So protista is the kingdom, and this protozoa are subkingdom. So now let's see about the general characteristics of this particular protozoa. So mostly these protozoa are aquatic in nature. These are aquatic in nature. It might be a fresh water, or it might be a salt water. So these are aquatic, free living, parasitic or symbiotic organisms. So here parasitic means they depend on their food or shelter, depend on other organisms for their food and shelter. Whereas symbiotic organisms, they form a friendly association with organism. That means both the host cell and the protozoa both will be beneficial by their symbiotic association. Okay, so these protozoa are aquatic in nature. So these are aquatic in nature, free living, parasitic or symbiotic organisms. And when we observe these protozoa under microscope, we can see them as oval or elongated or spherical, and they occur in different shapes, okay, or in changing shape, okay, changing shape. So changing shape means should immediately remember amoeba. Amoeba. So here changing shape means amoeba. So these are few shapes we commonly see in, sorry. So these are the few shapes we commonly see in these particular protozoa, okay, and this they show cellular level of organization, cellular level of organization, and they perform activities of the body are performed by a single cell. That means it is a single cell performing organism, single cell performing organism, okay, and the body of protozoa is either naked or surrounded by a non-rigid pellicles, either naked or surrounded by a non-rigid pellicle, and cellulose is absent in the pellicle. So whatever the pellicle is present around the protozoa cell body, it is absent, it doesn't contain any cellulose. And some protozoa secrete shells of various inorganic compounds and cover their body, okay, so that means kind of shells will be produced and they hide in those shells, okay. And some protozoa they possess different types of locomotory organs like flagella, cilia or pseudopodia, okay, flagella, pseudopodia or cilia. So the organisms which produce or which have this flagella are called as flagellates, and organisms which have cilia are called as ciliates, and organisms which have pseudopodia are called as scorodines, okay. So these are few kinds of protozoans depending on the extra locomotory locomotory organs. So and these locomotory organs are absent in parasitic forms. Only symbiotic forms will contain these parasitic forms, and locomotory organs are absent in parasitic forms. Coming to their nutrition, they are holozoic animal like and feed largely on bacteria and microscopic algae and minute animals such as rotifers or on other protozoans including membranes of their own species. So that means coming to their nutritional habits, these are holozoic and they feed mostly on bacteria and microscopic algae, that means which can only be seen by microscope, and minute animals like rotifers, and sometimes they feed on uh, protozoans only, that means the protozoans which belong to their own species, okay. And these are halophytic, some are halophytic. Halophytic means so nothing but these are plant like and they contain chlorophyll. So as discussed before, these protozoa belong to the protista group, and these are again two types, animal like and plant like. Though these are animal like, that means these protozoa are animal like, few exceptional groups will contain chlorophyll. Few exceptional groups will contain this chlorophyll, and they prepare their own food by photosynthesis, and best example is euglena. Okay, and parasitic protozoans, they depend on dead and decaying materials, and they form the hosts. Okay, monocysts. And some organisms, they act as saprophytes. That means they feed on dead and organic matters, and few are saprozoics. That means they absorb dissolved salts and simple organic nutrients from the surrounding medium. So that means they require some chemical compounds for their survival. And few protozoans, these have osmotic concentration of cell body, and this is maintained by one or more contractile vacuoles present. So these contractile vacuoles, they not only maintain the osmotic concentration of the body, but also help in the excretion process. Okay, and here the excretory product is ammonia, and the excretory product is ammonia. And coming to reproduction, asexual mode is through binary fission and budding, and through sexual mode it is fusion of gametes or by conjugation. And here single cell of the body performs all the vital activities as said earlier. And here encystment is also seen at the unfavorable conditions, and during favorable conditions this is converted into new cell. So alternation of generations is also seen in these organisms. So here free living protozoa like Euglena, amoeba and paramecium, parasitic protozoa like monocysts, antamoeba and guardia. So these are few protozoan organisms. Now let's see about the reproduction. So firstly we'll see about asexual reproduction. It is a mode of reproduction in which there is no union of gametes, and here these undergo production of new individual without involvement of union of gametes. Okay, here mostly binary fission and budding is seen. So let's see about binary fission. Binary fission occurs very widely among the protozoa, and division of the body into two equal daughter cells is nothing but the binary fission. So whatever the single cell is present, it is equally divided into two daughter cells, and this is called binary fission. So here micronucleus divides into two by a simple amitosis division. So whatever the micronucleus is present in the cell, it is divided into two simple amitosis division. And here the cytoplasmic divides, whatever the cytoplasm is there, it divides into two equal halves by a central constriction. And the daughter individuals are reconstructed, and that means after division, whatever the organelles or whatever the structures that particular daughter cells require, they again daughter individuals will reconstruct those wanted structures, and it does not obtain from the parent. So only the basic structure will be given from the parent, and remaining wanted structures should be developed by the daughter cell itself. So if you see, amoeba divides simply into two equal daughter individuals is the example for this particular binary fission occurring in protozoans. Okay, and here some protozoans like Testacea, it divides into two daughters. Which one of the daughter individual occupies the old body while the other moves out and forms a new one. So here in this particular Testacea group of protozoans, what happens? One particular cell, during the binary fission, one cell will go out of the old body and it will be developed into a new individual, and the old one will be again a new individual. So in this binary fission occurs. Coming to budding, multiplication by budding is very less, and this is very frequently seen in the protozoan. That means rarely seen in the protozoan, and frequently found mode of asexual reproduction is binary fission. So here formation of one or more similar individuals from the large parent organism is budding. That means from the parent cell itself, small appendages will be seen as buds, and these after separation it will develop into a new individual. So it is either endogenous or exogenous depending upon the location of the developing bud. And here binary fission is common in Suctorians, and example Noctiluca. Next one is sexual reproduction. Here the involvement of two gametes is seen. Two gametes, they unite to form a new individual during this mode of reproduction, and mostly these protozoans can continue to live, multiply through asexually, and this gametes involvement of gametes is seen in rare conditions, and here it occurs by syngamy and conjugation. So again syngamy is many types like isogamy, anisogamy. You can see different types of syngamy modes. So fusion of two gametes to form a zygote is called as syngamy, and here the process of syngamy in which two gametes take part, the two gametes are morphologically alike. That means if these two gametes doesn't show any similarities, it is called as isogamy, and the reproduction between isogametes is called as isogamy. So whatever the similar gametes are there, we call them as isogametes, and the reproduction we call it as isogamy. And if two gametes are morphologically alike, we call them as anisogametes, and the reproduction mode is anisogamy. So the same thing we discussed here. Isogamy is the fusion of two similar gametes. These are similar in size and shape also, and best example for this is Chlamydomonas. Okay, and for anisogamy, fusion between two different gametes, they differ in both size, shape and behavior also, and best example is and here the gametes are called as heterogametes or anisogametes also, and the process is anisogamy or heterogamy. And next, conjugation. So conjugation is the temporary union of two individuals of one and the same species for the purpose of nuclear material exchange. So two cells, that is two gametes, positive gamete and negative gamete, they come in contact with each other and they form a conjugation tube during which genetic material will be exchanged, and they separate after the genetic material exchange, and finally new cells will be formed. And here example for conjugation is Paramecium and Vorticella. Paramecium and Vorticella are the best examples for conjugation. So this is about protozoans. So in this class we have discussed about viroids, prions and protozoans, and here viroids are the these are single stranded RNA molecules which act as infectious genetic material, and these viroids will lack what? They lack the envelope, protein envelope or protein capsid. And coming to prions, these are proteinaceous infectious agents. That means the protein compound act as infectious agent. And coming to protozoans, these are protistan group, and these are animal like in nature, but few exceptional cases are also there which contain chlorophyll and similar to plants. So mostly these are aquatic in nature. This is about protozoans. So please write the notes. If you have any doubts, please contact me, and we'll post the PDFs in your WhatsApp group. Thank you, students.